How in the hell did we get here with John Zink is brought to you by IT Avalon. Visit our sponsor at itavalon.com. Now, here's John Zink.
Hey everybody, welcome to the How in the Hell Did We Get Here podcast with John Zink. I am John Zink, and I'm glad to be joined today by none other than Miss Tammy Miller. Tammy, thanks so much for joining me today.
Happy to be here, John. Thank you.
Tammy is with Elkay Interior Systems, and she is the Senior Global Director of IT, CIO/CISO. She lives in Marathon, Wisconsin, which is, tell us, where's that at, Tammy?
So Marathon is central to northern Wisconsin. It's a very small town, ginseng capital, and it's very rural. It's a very, very rural. As a matter of fact, in our backyard, we have a landmark affectionately known as the 4590, which is one of four centers, if you will, in the globe, two of which are on land. One is literally in my backyard.
So you sent me that, the 45 by 90 club.
Yep. So this
fascinating. So it's actually in your backyard?
It's as the crow flies, probably about a mile. Mm-hmm.
That's so
I live
awesome.
rural. Everything is in a backyard.
So what was you sent me the map of it? Is the other one in Russia? It's on land?
East. Yes, correct. The other two are in the ocean. Correct. Yep.
Well, that's fascinating. So married to Steve. How long have you guys been married?
We've been married 6 years.
You got a 26-year-old son named Tegan.
Mm-hmm.
Also followed in your footsteps. He's in IT.
He is. Yes.
And 24-year-old daughter, Tanner.
Correct.
Who's about to get married.
She is about to get married. That's correct. In August. Yes. So fun times.
Is all the planning going on for all that stuff right now?
Oh, my Lord. So much. Well, I'm going to give her credit. So both of my children are extremely organized individuals. And she has honestly everything already set. And she said that the job of us is to show up. I don't know how many parents can say, wow, right? Like you're not being involved in all of that. It's already set. So huge, huge shout out.
So show up with a checkbook?
No,
what?
Not even that. Right? I know.
Well, that sounds awesome. Good for you, Tanner. Now you got dogs, cats, and chickens.
Yes, that is
How many
true.
chickens?
6 chickens. That was our COVID project. My husband, I worked in a health system. It was crazy during COVID. Well, I don't need to relive. Everyone lived that already. But I came home, and here's a chicken coop, and my husband smiling ear to ear, saying, "Guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna be chicken farmers." And I'm like, "Fabulous! That sounds wonderful." Okay.
So you have the eggs and everything every day?
We do. Yes. Yep.
Nothing better than farm fresh eggs.
I was gonna say, have you? Yes. You know the difference.
Oh yeah, we'll talk here about the rural life here in a little bit. So the town I grew up in is about the same as the town that you're in, but mine was in Northwest Illinois. So yeah, I worked for farmers. I'm a big dude. So baling hay was my summer job because it paid a lot more than working at a grocery store or something like that.
So you know the whole rule about standing on a hay wagon, having your knees bent at all times?
Yes, I do. I didn't always follow the rules, though. So
that sounds like a shock, John.
Tammy Miller has 29 years of experience in IT, spanning for-profit, nonprofit, and startups in the healthcare, construction, and manufacturing fields. She's a global IT executive with a long career of successfully spearheading enterprise IT operations, developing and managing architecture, and leading top-performing teams. Her niche is mergers and acquisitions and divestitures. Most recently, she developed a global cybersecurity risk assessment and mitigation strategy. Tammy holds a law degree from Purdue University. And I was going to ask you, with that law degree, if I get in a pickle, can you help me out?
John, I'm not so sure that many people could help you out of a pickle. I'm just going on a limb with that.
Now, that's a total Midwest comeback right there. Now, a master's degree in business administration from Western Governors University and a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. Just passed her Certified Information Security Manager exam in February. Tammy also has a technology consulting company, Sugar Maple Ventures, and manages several businesses with her husband, including chickens. So
unsuccessfully, yes.
That's the rundown. So thanks again for joining me. We're going to have a fun conversation because first thing I'm going to talk about is Elkay. My mom, Ann Zink, funny, her maiden name is Miller, so we might be related, who knows. Northwest Illinois, I grew up in a town called Mount Carroll, Illinois, which is near Savannah, Illinois, right on the Mississippi River. My mom worked for Elkay, building water coolers for 34 years in both Savannah and she started in Lanark, Illinois. And I got great memories about that because she worked there for 34 years. Before that, she did some hair. We actually had a beauty shop in the back of our house. But for most of my formidable years, she worked at Elkay, and she loved Elkay. Don't get me wrong; she was happy to retire when she was all done. But it was pretty interesting that I was talking to you today because Ann Zink worked there for a long time, and I've got some great memories of her time there. So, what got you to work for Elkay?
It's such a crazy story. So I had been in the healthcare industry for 26, 27 years. And it was right after, actually, when I had begun my law degree. And it was one of those perfect moments where I was in law school. My husband and I became empty nesters. And it was like, what are we going to do for the rest of our careers? It was a great position to be in. And I knew that if I stayed where I was in healthcare, I had a trajectory, but that trajectory wasn't occurring as quickly as I was hoping. And so I started looking around. And when I saw Elkay and did some research, I thought, wow. And had a couple conversations, met with Mia Nicolaisen. She's the VP of Growth and Strategy. And it was instant chemistry. And as I met the rest of the executive team, there was so much energy and so much passion. Going from healthcare into design and manufacturing, I mean, that's a complete 180. But the business model was incredibly intriguing. And so I was talking with my husband and I said, okay, what do you think? And literally at the same time, he was also leaving his career. And so we jumped. We literally, both of us jumped within 3 days of each other, jumped and went into new directions. And it was the best thing we ever did. And I will credit Elkay and that environment because it's so passionate. It's fantastic.
Interesting. It had to be exciting and scary at the same time for both of you.
Terrifying. Yeah. Terrifying. When all of this happened, and my husband and I were sitting at the kitchen table, You mentioned about your mom and the incredible influence she has in your life. My parents are the same. And my husband and I were sitting at the kitchen table going, oh my gosh, we're going to do this. And my parents showed up at the door and we're like, oh my God, do we say something? Do we not? What's the deal? Okay. And so, hey, how's it going? And it was one of those very awkward moments. And my husband looked at me and he's like, should we tell him? I'm like, yeah, we should probably tell him that we're both unemployed right now. Okay. And so we told my parents and we're like, here's the deal. We're in transition. And immediately it was, oh my gosh, we're going to go to the grocery store. Do you guys need some food? Oh my gosh, how are you guys going to survive? And we laugh because we're like, we're not destitute. We have other jobs lined up and we're okay. But food, we're food motivated. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. So go back to my mom and Elkay. So when I was very young, my mom got divorced from my biological father when I was like a year old.
Okay.
And he left. And another story, I didn't meet him till I was 42 years old. So another man came in and became my father, Rich Zink, and good, bad, indifferent. It was there were challenges there. My mom was always the backbone, and she went to work. And you asked earlier before we got on the podcast, what kept her there for so long. It was because it was that backbone of the family and her bringing in a steady salary that, we could survive on. And it was that hard work that she put in that kept us afloat. Myself, my dad, everything, and to see someone like that. And my grandmother, Reva Doty, was the same way. It's just like those strong women from my upbringing that just believed in me through everything. I could tell them I was quitting my job tomorrow. They, well, we believe in you. Go and do it. It's just a very, very. I believe when we first started our company, IT Avalon. My wife Carissa and I, she was very apprehensive. I always had the belief in myself that I could do anything, and it's because of my mother and my grandmother. They put the tools in place for me and the belief in my head that I could do whatever I put my mind to. If I work hard enough and, I educate myself on what I'm going to do, I can do it. And it's just an amazing upbringing from those two strong women. No doubt there were men in my life that helped along the way, but it was those two that really did everything for me and put me in the position I'm in today. So just kudos to you as a strong, smart woman, because it's all about you.
I don't know about that, but your mother and your grandmother sound like fantastic women that I think anyone would be very, very proud to call mom and grandma.
Oh yeah, they're incredible. Grandma just passed away at 91 a couple years ago, and I miss those phone calls. I think about something awesome that happened to me, and I'm like, I got to call grandma. Oh shit, she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that always sucks. So being a fellow Midwesterner, and you also graduated high school in 1990, just like me. Same size town. Mount Carroll's about 1,200, 1,300 people, something like that. And I just remember getting up in the morning when I was old enough, jumping on my bike and being gone until the sun came down. Was it the same for you?
Somewhat. Same concept, maybe a little bit different. So I grew up actually about 30 minutes from here in central Wisconsin, out in Hatley. And we grew up on a farm. We were a farm family. And our mornings, we were up every morning at 4:30. We were doing chores, and chores had to be done before we got to school. My parents are extremely hardworking people. I will absolutely attribute myself to my upbringing. my parents are, I'm so fortunate. They are the best role models. But we had a hard upbringing, if you will. We weren't poor. We weren't destitute. We weren't in a situation that challenged us, other than the profession, if you will, right? Like farming is difficult. Farming is hard, and you didn't know it. You didn't. That's just how you grew up. I mean, you had work ethic. You were up every morning. You were doing chores. You were responsible for something greater than yourself. And that was my parents that instilled that work ethic. And it was my brother and I. And there were just things that had to be accomplished before you could go out and have fun. It was not, hey, I'm gonna join 4 sports and do everything that I want to do. It's, you can join if you can work that around your chores. Okay, so it was that work ethic. It was that prioritization. It was that sense of family. Our family bond is very, very strong. We have a very small family, but very, very well bonded. And both of my parents have additional education. They set my brother and I up for, I would say, very, very successful careers. It was funny when growing up, I can remember times where I said to my mom or my dad, hey, we're going to prom. I'd kind of like a cool dress, and my dad, this is my dad's answer. We'll sell a cow and we will get you a dress. Okay. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine having that conversation today? It's just a different world, but you have to work for it. And I would say my upbringing was certainly not ordinary, right? And I look back and I'm like, how did we survive some of the things that we did, right?
Well, I think one of the things that struck me there is you said that we didn't know. I didn't know. We never had, looking back on it, we never had a lot, but we always had plenty.
That's
so it was
so well said.
I never wanted anything, I look back on it, I'm like, oh, we didn't have much of anything, but we always had more than enough, and it's like the family. So I'm an only child. My cousins, Alicia, Jamie, Morgan, and Mallory, those were my siblings, if you will. And it's like, I never wanted to go home because it's funny. My Johnny, my 5-year-old, says the same thing. Home is boring. I never wanted to go home because, then I was on my own and I'd have to entertain myself. Mm-hmm. But it's like that whole family that we had was just like awesome. And I really miss that now that everybody's like getting older and stuff, because our upbringing was awesome, and whenever I get together with my cousins, we always talk about how awesome it was growing up with that family unit. And, it just struck me when you said that. We didn't know. We had no clue. We were rich beyond belief as far as I was concerned growing up in that family, and how lucky we were to be coming out of that. Because I've heard from other people, it ain't the same all over.
Very well said. Very well said. And it's the little things. It's the being able to go for a walk in the woods. You mentioned about hopping on your bike, right? And going till the sun comes back, right? Like you just go. We had that. We had acres and acres, hundreds of acres, right, to run around it. We didn't even think twice about it. It's like, well, this is just how it works. This is great. Let's go hunting. Let's go fishing. It was all right there. It was, well, gosh, I don't know what everyone else is doing, but this is fantastic.
Yeah. Let's see. You said something earlier too. We were doing the intro there that you guys are empty nesters now. So I've got a couple of friends of mine. I had my son late in life. I'm 52. A lot of my friends like you are empty nesters now. How's that whole situation go when all of a sudden the kids are gone? Are you sitting there looking at each other like, well, what the hell do we do now?
My husband is probably the most patient man. When we became empty nesters, I came home and I said, okay, honey, med school or law school? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, our next adventure. He goes, this is not our adventure. This is your adventure. And it really doesn't matter what I pick because you're going to do what you want to do anyways. I'm like, law school it is. Okay. But it was that conversation of how do you transition, right? How do you transition out of a life where you have been so devoted, I'm going to use the word devoted, right? To a family, to an upbringing, to structure, to 3 meals a day. I still can't downsize cooking. I can't. That I don't know how people, if anyone has ideas and suggestions, I'm all ears. I cook and bake and still do all that. And my husband's like, stop. It's two of us and the dog, right? But I think everyone needs that plan, right? How are you going to transition? What does that look like? And, I have some friends that have transitioned very well and actually changed careers and have taken up new hobbies. And I mean, they have it's kind of like a brand new life. And I have other friends that really didn't transition that well, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Okay, it's interesting. It's interesting how that works.
I'm going to transition over to something else here now, and a lot of the people outside of the Midwest might not understand what the word I'm about to say to you, but it's euchre. So you got to play euchre, right?
I do not well. I know it's terrible.
Oh, I'd love to sit down with some money with you then if you don't play it well.
Can I just hand it over now? I'll just hand it over.
So for the people who don't know, outside of the Midwest, there's a German game called euchre, and all of the Germans who went into the Midwest and started farming and stuff brought with them this awesome card game called euchre. And where I grew up, there's a few people out here in the West Coast that play euchre, but very, very few. But it's a very fun, confusing game. It's hard to learn because the two highest cards that you're playing are the jack and the jick, which that'll confuse you right there. But I just wanted to get your reaction to the word euchre, because most people that I see nowadays on the West Coast have no idea what I'm talking about.
I say euchre and sheep's head, right? That's the other game that's played. Mm-hmm.
So what kind of student were you growing up?
Oh, I was such a nerd.
Oh, were you?
I was such a nerd.
In what way? Were you into Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars all day long.
Oh, me too.
Oh.
Did you watch The Mandalorian?
No.
Oh, you got to watch The Mandalorian. If you were into Star Wars back in the day, we have Disney Plus, of course, because Johnny's watching all the Disney stuff, and I see this show, The Mandalorian. And actually, friends of ours here in Reno, the Carano family, their daughter, one of the owners' daughters, Gina Carano, is actually into The Mandalorian. So I watched it for that reason and just got entrenched in it. It's like The Mandalorian is one of the bounty hunters, Boba Fett. Remember Boba Fett?
Sure. Yep.
It's all around that. You got to watch it. I mean, it's just such a great series. If you love Star Wars, you will love The Mandalorian.
I love it.
So let's go back to the nerd, quote unquote, that you just said. What kind of student were you? What did you love?
I love English and history. I excelled very, very much in those. Math, please, let's not even go there. Let's not even talk about math. Science was okay. I just, to be fair, I was just a student of everything, right? Like I'm that person that would just go from class to class to class, learn. I was a complete bookworm, a book nerd. I still am. Okay, fun fact, John, I don't watch TV. So you're talking about watching I don't watch TV. I don't. I read a lot, but I don't watch a lot of TV. But yeah, I was a very shy, antisocial book nerd. Yeah. I could show you a picture and you'd be like, there's no way that's her. There's no way. Like, yeah.
So what, you and I are so opposite when it comes to students. I was class clown. It's just I did just enough to get by. There was one teacher, I think it was Mr. Kazmarski, junior year. I had an F. I'm like, listen, bro, you don't want me back. I don't want to come back. How can we rectify this? I was a salesman from the get-go, right? So I had to sit down and take a test. I aced the test when I actually had to, and then he gave me a D- or something like that, just to get rid of me, So it was I actually wrote a book called True Ambition. I'll send you a copy of it, and you can read all about how stupid I was back then. But every little step that we take along the way leads us to this conversation we're having today, and all these different angels that were put in our path to get us here. I had to go through every one of those little missteps to get to success today. So it is what it is. But did you have to study it all? Or were you one of those folks that didn't have to study it all and just knew it all?
No, no, I would never say that.
I said it the wrong way. I've got friends that they didn't know it all either. I'm just jealous of people who didn't have to sit there and go crazy studying. Did you have to study a lot, or did it just come naturally learning?
No, it came easy. It came easy, except for math. Like math, I'm going to say, John, and this will resonate with you. Math was extremely difficult. Okay, it still is, just some of the concepts, right? But I had a great appreciation for art and music. Zero talent whatsoever. And I would get into some of these classes and I would listen to the beautiful voices and I would see the work product in an art class and I would just be like, how does that happen? Like, where did you get that from? And it was that appreciation for skills that you don't have, right? Like the rest of the classes came very easy for me. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. Let's go do something else, where they may have struggled, right? And then we get into some of the other classes and you're like, that creative part. And I'm going to say the creative gene, right? Some people have it, some people don't. I am not a creative person at all. I appreciate it, but to create that and to be able to do that I am just so impressed.
Well, as you know, I love music. I've been playing music since I was a kid. So it's like my first drum of any kind was a Blue Bonnet butter dish with pencils on top of it, number 2 pencils at the kitchen table, and then singing along to John Denver 8 tracks with my mom in the kitchen. I still to this day just adore John Denver and all that music from back in the day.
Yep.
But that creative thing, that the first drummer that I saw, I was just in love. I was just like, oh my God, I have to do that. And like, if I would have put as much energy into studying and doing those kind of things as I did into playing the drums, I probably wouldn't be here today doing what I'm doing today. There's a different path that would have happened. And thank God for drums. Thank God for music. Thank God for singing. Thank God for the talent that God gave me when it came to music. It would have been a whole different deal. And like you said, we all have different parts of our brains that, you got right side, you got left side. And, there's people in my family that have absolutely no musical ability. And I don't even know where it came from. My mom sings, but nobody else is really a musician. It's just funny how it all works. And when you put your mind to doing something that you fell in love with, and I've been in love with drums. I've got a set sitting right here in my office. And when nobody's here in the office, I smash the shit out of them. It's just so much fun. So when I saw on your questionnaire that everybody fills out for this podcast that you and your husband go to multiple concerts per year, I'm like, I'm envious. I get to play multiple concerts per year, but I only go to like 5 or 6 per year to watch some of my favorite groups. So who are some of the latest concerts that you guys went and attended?
Oh, wow. We are very fortunate. Here in Wausau, we have a venue called the Grand Theater. And actually, it was just named one of the top 100 theaters in the U.S. It's a very small, intimate venue, holds about 1,000 people, and they pull in serious shows. It could be Broadway shows, it could be musicals, it could be bands, it could be dance, and it's this. I don't even want to tell. I shouldn't even talk about this, John, because then everybody's going to want to come here. I'm like fiercely protective, right? And I literally go through the list every year and I pick out shows like, okay, that sounds something, or, we haven't seen that, or let's go check that out. Like, everything from Stomp to a Bee Gees tour to an AC/DC tour right, to Fiddler on the Roof. Like it runs through everything. And all of that is literally 10 minutes from our house. So my husband and I make a point. We're very busy people, everyone is, but we literally make a point to take in 10 to 15 shows a year just as a chance for us to get out and to appreciate something that we both enjoy.
Oh, I love it. Live theater. You know, I take my son to as much live theater as I can, because there was a little place outside of Mount Carroll. It's still there, Timberlake Playhouse, Summer Stock Theater. And I was in a production of 1776 when I was about 19 or 20 years old, and just an amazing experience. But to have those kind of places like the theater you're talking about, the Wausau Theater, such a gift for the community. So for anybody who is, loves that kind of thing, take a little money out of your pocket and support those places that are in your community, because they're so important. Arts and music. If they could put some more money towards arts and music instead of sports, that would be amazing. For all those kids out there that you're looking to help out, put some money into arts and music for them. It'll get them a lot farther in life than running on a football field. Just my 2 cents. So
I would say, John, we are absolutely on the same page. I always said, if you could take some of that money and funnel it to art, music, and technology, let's not forget the technology people.
Well, it's funny how many people in technology are art and music nerds. Mm-hmm. I own an IT staffing company. And when I tell people I'm in a band, they're like, "Oh, I play guitar, I play bass, I play drums, and we have something else to talk about outside of, can I help you fill some of your roles?" So,
yes.
Speaking of technology, what got you into technology?
A very unconventional path. So my mom actually bought a computer to do our farm records way back in the day. And I remember when she brought it home.
What year was it?
Oh my goodness. 86.
Holy cow.
And I remember her bringing it in, right, and putting it on the desk. And my brother and my dad are looking at it like, so what's that? And absolutely no idea. Well, I'm going to use this to do the farm records, and I'm going to keep track of all the, she was the finance person, right? And what? Right? So other than to play a couple games, right? Like that was my experience with computers. When I went to college, it took me till my junior year to actually declare a major. I was that person that the advisor pulled into the office saying, "Tammy, you're a junior. You've got to declare. Like, what are you going to do? What is the plan?" And my dad is a psychologist by training. He has a master's in psychology and is also a farmer, right? My mom has training. She actually went to school to be a physical education teacher. Met my dad, they got married, et cetera, et cetera. So anyways, I'm sitting here in college. I'm like, oh, I have to declare. I only have a year and a half left, and you're asking me to pick something. And I'm like, you know what? I'm taking a lot of political science classes, and I love law. So I'm going to declare political science, legal, and my minor is going to be psychology. And they're like, okay, all right. So I got done, actually went on a tour of some law schools. And I'm like, wow, like I have no experience. I can't even relate this. Like, what does this mean? Like, what would I do with law? And I'm like, this is not the time. This is not the time. So I actually got a job in healthcare as the administrative assistant to an IT director in healthcare. So I was her admin. And that was my introduction to IT. And it was so funny. I'm sitting in the interview and she's like, so what background do you have in technology?
Mom had a computer.
Next question, right? Like, I don't, but, what background do you have in healthcare? Again, I just came out of college, right? And she took a chance. She took a chance on me. because I had work ethic, I had passion, and I had presence. She sent me a letter. I have a letter from her, literally, and this is almost 30 years old. Sitting up in my dresser talking about how I was such a great hire and she was really appreciative. I still keep in touch with her. But that was my introduction into technology. And so I got into this department and I knew nothing and I just learned, like all of us, right? You have to learn. You have to start someplace. Started on a help desk. I'm like, I had physicians calling me saying, my computer's not working. I need this. Okay, in the medical profession, right? When a physician calls you, you are there. You are there to help them. There's very, very, very strict protocols around that. And so being in healthcare, being in technology, learning, going through the advent of electronic medical records, going through AS400, right? And a data center and a data operator, the people that work at night in this back room, plug in tapes. Like I did that. So I was able to experience so many pieces of technology. I was hooked. It was fantastic.
Interesting. So I moved from small town, Northwest Illinois. It was like 23, 24, something like that, to Minneapolis, chasing my rock and roll dream, right? And got up there about a year into it. I was delivering pizzas and playing music. That's what I did. And I'm like, wow, I should really get a job. I'm trying to make some money. I think prior to becoming a technical recruiter, I'd made like maybe $10,000 a year. There's no money, right? So I go into interview with this company called Paragon Search and Selection, 100% commission. All you were doing was in the morning, you were making calls, sales calls. In the afternoon, you were making recruiting calls, working a full desk. Had no clue. You were talking to me. It reminded me so much. RPG AS400. That's what I picked up because I had a mentor named Jeff Boulay that he said, just get one thing, make that your focus, and then that's all you do. And it was all mainframe back then, right? Before Y2K. So I picked RPG, rocket propelled grenade. I can remember that. RPG AS400. So I would just call up companies selling, but I got stuck because I didn't pick what I was going to do after school. I didn't take my SATs. I didn't do anything because I wasn't going to go anywhere. I was going to go somewhere. I was going to be a rock star. But I was really apprehensive to talk to people that had bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, PhDs. What the hell do I have to offer to these people? And, I'm young, I'm dumb. It's just, you don't know what you don't know. And that same mentor, Jeff Boulay, told me, he goes, these people need you just as much as you need them. They're looking to hire people to bring into their organization. They don't know how to find them. They are quote unquote nerds, and you can talk to people. You have so much to offer. Just don't be afraid. Get on the phone, blow it up, go get it. And I did. Thank God for people like Jeff Boulay. Thank God for people like Ken Hennon who hired me in and gave me a chance, just like that person gave you a chance. It's just like looking back on it now, 27 years later, who knows where I would be if Ken Hennon wouldn't have hired me for that 100% commission job, and Jeff Boulay wouldn't have gave me those wise words of wisdom that you can do it. Just like mom did, just like grandma did, all these people that just, saw something in you and I to give us a chance and say, you know what, I believe in you, you can do it.
I love the perspective. And look where you are, John. I love this conversation because you build on the experience. You build on the people that gave you a chance. You took it, right? And you had some challenging situations. You had to make some decisions at some point. What was it? A phone call? Was it a phone call to a mentor? Was it a phone call to your mom? Like you knew you had that support no matter what path you chose, right? There was support.
And it's also community support. You said it before. What do you need? Food? What can we do for you? I've talked to my wife before. She's very pessimistic sometimes I'm very optimistic. And I think it comes back to small town community. If I fell on my face tomorrow and lost everything, I could go back to Mount Carroll, Illinois and be taken care of. That small town community, there's something huge about it. I could call on my friends and family back there and have a place to live, have a roof over my head, have food, and be taken care of for a while. You better get back on your feet, but we'll take care of you for a little bit.
That is so key, John. Exactly. We'll help you. Absolutely. This is a community. We take care of people, but this is not a charity. This is a community, not a charity. I think that's kind of important.
Right. So let's ask about the other side of it. What was the least favorite job you ever had over your years?
Oh, John, least favorite. Oh, yes, I do have one. Right out of college, I had a very, very, very short stint in I'm going to say a manufacturing place. And I was hired to do AR and AP. That was my job. And there was no computers. It was all paper based.
And you hate math.
It was a riot, right? I think I lasted 2 weeks. I think it was about 2 weeks. And it was here, take this, match up the customers, do AR, AP, manage this, help us. And then filing, it was endless filing. And I was like, wow, this is not for me. This is not my job. And I look back on that because I didn't care for I didn't care for the office environment. I didn't care for the job. It was not a fit. And I look at that now and I look at what, being responsible for, $50-60 million budgets, managing people, managing customers, looking at things from a global perspective, helping my husband manage all the finances for several companies, right? And I'm like, had I not done that, had I not had that exposure to really, to be on the front line, knowing what people do, I couldn't be as effective as I am today. Terrible job. It was not for me, but I needed that experience in order to build. So I think it was meant to be.
I'm going to give you my least favorite job, and you'll be super surprised. It was Elkay in Lanark, Illinois. I worked there for one summer, and my job was on the line, on the assembly line. And my job for, I think it was 3 months, was to take a plastic sack and put it over top of the water cooler and put a a cardboard thing over the top to protect it, and then it moved down the line. That was my job.
That's it?
That was it. I was hired as a temp, and I remember going, oh dear Lord, I don't ever want to come back here again. But he also gave me a lot of respect for what my mom did, moving up from the assembly line. And she started in August. By December, she was an inspector, so she moved up pretty quickly. And I say they probably saw that I was not going to move up quickly and said, get the hell out of here. So that job, working in AP and AR, there's a lesson learned in everything. What lesson did you learn from that horrible job?
There's a role for everyone. And there are multiple positions in a company, in a business, in a department, and everyone matters and everyone has a job to do. And you have to let the people do the job that they're intended to do. Trust your people, let them do what they need to do. And if someone has a position or has a job or wants to move on, support them, encourage them, create a growth path. There's nothing worse than having to come into work day after day knowing I have nowhere else to go. I don't have a growth path.
Yeah. That's a great point. So I've got people here that are just amazing at IT Avalon at my company, and just watching on a daily basis how they improve. Some people have been here for 9 years. The company is now 13 years old. And watching the improvements that they make off of things that I tried to do at the beginning, One guy came in and took over the back office, AP, AR, collections, everything. And I pretty much just handed him a big stack of crap. Here you go. This is how I do it. And he's like, okay, and then just watching, he is so meticulous in everything. His name's Sal. He is so meticulous in everything that he does and just does everything perfectly. He's slow. He's methodical. Well, he's not slow on everything, but he's methodical about everything. Just make sure that it's all right. And when I tell him to do something, he listens, he takes it down. And when he figures it out, it's done perfectly every time. Same thing with our HR manager, with the recruiters, with everybody. It's amazing. So I really agree with what you said there, and giving them a growth path to, I don't ever want people working for me. They're like, oh God, here we go again. Because we've all been in those jobs, just like the one you talked about.
I like the story that you told of Sal, because he's being intentional about what he's doing, right? He is that listening. What I'm hearing is he's that listening person, and he's going to take and internalize that. And he's going to take what you say, and he's probably going to put his own spin on it. And it's going to be better than what you thought, because he's the expert in it. So you hired the expert, and you're letting him do what it is that he does best.
And the biggest thing is he's always looking out for me and my wife, Carissa, and the best interest of this company and all of our employees. And those people are invaluable, because it's just like when he calls and tells me something or gets on a Teams call or whatever, because he's in Arizona, it tells me something. I know it's coming from the best place possible because he's looking out for all of us. So who are the persons in your life that most inspire you?
Oh gosh, that's absolutely my parents and my husband. Again, family is so inspirational, and I understand that I am extremely blessed in that case. Again, as I talked about my parents, right? Like they're my rock. They are the people that have given me so many opportunities and have always been there. My husband is extremely inspirational. We joke because he's like the business development guy, and I'm like the back office, right? Like he's the visionary, and he's, we work on a lot of business and business acquisitions and other, I'm going to say, very fun entrepreneurial things. And he's the guy that comes up with the idea, and then I'm sitting there going, okay, where's the contract? Where's the budget? What kind of technology are we going to have? Right? Like, and he's like, Tammy, can you please be excited about this? I'm like, I'm super excited, but I want to know a little bit more detail, right? But I love that, because it's a very, I'm going to say challenging in the best possible way. It's a very challenging environment because it takes you out of your comfort zone, right? It would be so easy to just get up every morning, do your job, go to bed. Okay, yep, and we got a couple other things to do. It's hey, what are we going to do today? We're going to investigate a business. Okay, hey, what are we going to do today? We're going to work on, acquisitions, divestitures. And this is outside of my day job, right? And so I find that extremely valuable, because it not only helps me do my regular job better, because it gives me additional exposure, it just provides access to a whole nother world. And I'm so fortunate. Well, like you, and you gave great examples too, right? Being able to work with your wife and working through the business. That's heady stuff.
It's fun if you do it the right way. Because I've got many people that are like, oh God, you got to work with your wife. And I'm like, she's my best friend. We kill it together. No doubt we get into arguments and stuff like that, but it's never really arguments. It's just like, here's my side, here's her side, meet somewhere in the middle if you're smart. But I actually absolutely love working with her. We have multiple businesses together, just like you guys do. We're working on a new app right now that's going to be incredible. That's just going to blow up. But, like you said before, I got a 5-year-old. I got multiple businesses. I like it that way. I like to be busy all the time. I like to lay my head down at night and pass out, because I am tired. I only got 30 years left. I better make the most of it. Let's go here. So
Oh, I love it.
tell us a little bit about Elkay Interior Systems. I knew Elkay water coolers. I want to know about Elkay Interior Systems.
Sure. Elkay Interior Systems probably would be best characterized as a 40-year-old startup. So the business started in Fond du Lac back in the 70s and steadily grew and quite honestly got the attention back in late 2014, 2015 of Elkay Manufacturing.
What was the name of the company before Elkay took it over?
ISI.
ISI.
Yep. And so they purchased ISI, and it came under the umbrella of Elkay Manufacturing. The business became very successful, right? And then they spun them back off again, and that's when I was brought in, and that was back in 2022. And what happened as part of that divestiture was a spin-off as a global company. And we have about 1,000 employees, and what we specialize in is manufacturing, design, engineering for retail, hospitality, and some stainless steel. And our business globally, it's such a rewarding field. And again, it's so vastly different because our clients come and go at different points of the process. And so, okay, John, you're going to start up another business and you're going to say, I have this business idea. I don't have a logo. I don't have a color scheme. I'm not exactly sure, but I have this vision of where I want to go. You would meet with our design group. They would make a logo for you. They'd come up with a color scheme. They would take you into what I call the immersion room. And it's like, you're going to feel different textures. You're going to look at different colors. How does this make you feel? How do we want to put it? How do you want to portray your image to the customers? And they will design a brand for you. And if that's all you need, great. Thank you. If it's, well, can you engineer what my storefront's going to look like? Sure. We can do that. Design and engineering can do that. Well, can you actually make the product? Think of walking into a hotel space, right? And you have this grand front entrance and all of these visuals, lighting, etc. Yes, we can do that. We can manufacture, create, we can install it, and we can help you support it. So customers will come and go at varying points. It's so diverse. It's so incredibly diverse. And I'm surrounded, John, by creative people. It makes me a little nervous.
That sounds super fun, though.
Yes.
I mean, it's like,
yes.
Healthcare is important. All these different things you've done prior are important, but this sounds super fun.
It is. It is the creativity in working with super iconic household brands, right? You got McDonald's, you got Starbucks, you got all the hotels. It's just, and then you get to be done with work, and you walk into these places. You get to be a consumer in the places that your company helps design. It's amazing. You go on a field trip. Okay, yeah, we're gonna go visit a bunch of Starbucks. Well, that's hard. Okay.
That's so cool. So what are some of the new initiatives that are happening right now in your group or at Elkay Interior Systems you can talk about?
Okay, that I can actually talk about?
Yes. Yeah, don't get us in trouble here.
Well, honestly, one of the items that's really excelling, actually, there are a couple areas. I'll be honest, our business is booming right now. There is very, very much a demand for our stainless products in a number of industries. And that's been a very, very, how do I want to say, like an underrated area, right? Everyone's like, oh, you do stainless. The craftsmanship that's involved in that, whether it's in the back room, it could be in a restaurant, it could be in a hotel. that demand is growing for people. The other piece that I find extremely fascinating is hotels and hotels renovations. To see some of the work that our group is doing, like, let's say some of the high-end ski resorts right out in Colorado, some of the iconic hotels on the West Coast, right out in California. They're doing a lot of work down in Florida on the East Coast. And you walk into these hotels and you see these massive casework, right? Like the front desk, the commanding presence, the warmth, right? Like that feel. Like we create that. We design that feel. It's just amazing. Again, the expertise that exists, not only in the design, but the engineering and the craftsmanship. I mean, these are people that are working with their hands, making these kinds. It's just incredible, incredibly talented organization.
So then, are the people that work there that do all this? It's really an art, right? So this artistic work, are they brought in and taught from within, or do you bring them from outside, or where do you find all this talent that's doing all of this work on the things you're creating?
I'll say this is where EIS, Elkay Interior Systems, excels, because it's both, John. We ruthlessly will hire talent. We will find talent. We will bring in talent. We have amazing talent inside already. So if we don't have it or we don't see the potential, we're going to find it. But there is a fantastic mentorship program where we can teach and train. And if you want to learn something, let's get you down the path. Whether it's welding, whether it could be millwork, it could be design, it could be engineering. I'll give you a technology example because I just literally am living this right now. We had the departure of our cybersecurity security engineer, and we had a gentleman for 2 years. He's been studying this nights and weekends, and he's like, I want a shot at this. And he's been with the company about 18 months. And and so I talked over with HR, and I'm like, we have this fairly young associate who's very interested in cybersecurity. He's got passion. He's got drive. Let's do this. We're going to put in place a very, very regimented 30, 60, 90. Let's see if he can hit the marks. John, he blew it out of the water. He's at 60 days and he's working on things that I would expect him to be working on in year 2. I'm like, get him in the job. Let's move him into the position, right? So, but that's just one of many, many examples in our company where if you hire the right people and you have the right passion and talent, where do you want to go? How can we help you get there?
I was going to say, the person like that, passion, talent, and drive. Yeah. Think back to when you were going crazy about something, just wanted a chance to get your foot in the door. I mean, those people always outperform someone who's like, yeah, I guess I'll take the job. Right? I've got 4 other offers over here, but you offered me $5,000 more,
Right? Yeah. Okay. Let's see what you can do. Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
You're right.
So
I have a question for you. So how do you spot passion? How do you know it? What are you looking for?
It's weird. You just kind of know it when you're talking to somebody. I've got a really good bullshit sensor, and it's like, maybe it's growing up in the Midwest. I don't know what it is, but it's just like, about half of the people that work for me internally, as far as recruiters and salespeople, they grew up in the Midwest. My recruiting, he's my delivery manager now. He managed the sales and recruiters. He moved back outside of Des Moines, Iowa. Most of the rest of the people have some kind of connection to the Midwest. It's just it's hard to say what it is, but it's just passion, drive, and intelligence. You can talk to someone and see if they're full of crap, because there's intelligent people that are full of crap. But it's like when you've got people who are intelligent, who are driven, and who are passionate about wanting to be successful at whatever they do, that's it. I mean, that's in it in a nutshell, to me, anyway.
Very well said. Very well said.
I got a couple more questions for you, and then we're going to end this beautiful podcast. I want to say one thing. It's been awesome to hear a Midwest accent on here. Love me some Wisconsin accent. Like I was in Northwest Illinois, so I've got a mishmash. I've got Chicago, I've got Wisconsin, and I've got Iowa, all right there in one. So there's my wife and I go to a local casino out here in Reno, and there's one girl in there. Her name's Pam, and she's got the thickest Wisconsin accent ever, and you can hear her coming from a mile away. It's so funny. But I really appreciate you being here today. Last couple questions. What were the most notable events that led you to where you are today?
I would say, again, having a director take a chance on me and hiring me into an IT position, even as an admin. Secondly, I went through a divorce back in the early 2000s and it was amicable. But I then it's a single mom, right? I'm a single mom. That was the same time that my career was really taking off in healthcare. And that job was everything to me. It was not only my lifeline, it was my identity, right? I'm like, I have got to do this. I have 2 kids that are dependent on me. And by the time I got through that divorce, it was that Christmas. And I paid my property taxes, and I was sitting at the kitchen table, and I looked in my checkbook because this was way before it was online. And I had 27 cents. I had 27 cents to my name. And I'm like, this will never happen again. Ever. It was not a math error, just in case you're wondering. It was not a math error. It was real. It was real.
Well, where my head went to was, this is so stupid. One of the only fast food in Mount Carroll is Dairy Queen. And back in the day, an ice cream cone cost 27 cents. My head went to, you can go get yourself an ice cream cone.
Right, exactly. What can I do with this last?
That's so fat kid thinking.
So you're just food motivated. But honestly, that was, and it wasn't. There was no fear, right? It wasn't a fearful environment. It wasn't. It was complete resolve. Okay, there is nowhere to go but up, and we're going. Come hell or high water, this is it. And the kids were young, and so I waited till they got a little further in school. I went back to school. I'm like, I gotta get more education here, because if I was on that cusp of from individual contributor into management. So I went back, got my MBA, and the kids are doing homework, I'm doing schoolwork, right? We're just kind of hanging out, and I clawed my way out of that. I'm like, this is not ever going to happen again. And then it made me, not that I don't have supportive family, please don't hear that, because they are rock solid, but there's just things you have to dig yourself out of. There are things where you have to dig deep. You have to look inside and say, this is mine, and I'm going to own it, and we're going to run with this, and we're going to make this a better environment. I would love to hear from my kids now what their recollection of that time is, right? It's like, oh my gosh, well, I didn't know anything was going on. Everything was fine, right? Like, I don't know I would love to hear what their perspective is. But I kept going forward, knowing that there was an end in sight. I shouldn't say end, a better way to do things, right? I'm not going to sit here and cry. Okay, what am I going to do about it? Just do something. Just do something. And it obviously turned out. The other very, very pivotal moment was, like I had mentioned earlier, my husband and I basically sitting there 3 days apart, unemployed, right? In our late 40s, early 50s, right? We're sitting there like, it was terrifying, but like exhilarating at the same time. Like it was like, did we just do that? It's like, let's hold hands and jump off the bridge and see where we land, because that sounds like a great idea, right? It was just, but we are in such a better position. We are better people. We are smarter people. We are free. We are way better financially. I would say our health, like we're healthier people. We're taking better care of ourselves. Like our whole lives just pivoted for the better. And it was just that sometimes you just got to take the chance. You got to take the risk. I am not a risk taker, right? That's my husband. I am not that risk taker. I have to kind of know where I'm going. That was not that case. It was, let's be comfortable being uncomfortable, because this is not working. We have to make a change. And we did it. And we look back now and we're like, wow, best decision ever.
There's a lot of great things that come from being uncomfortable. Being comfortable all the time is what gets people into problems, is the way I look at it. And, you know, you got that fight or flight thing. Are you going to fight, or are you going to lay down and just take it? And then necessity is the mother of invention. You know, it's just like, we're going to go out and we're going to do this. You know, there's so many great things in what you just said. And I'm going to end the podcast here by asking you the same question I ask everybody. We know where the hell you've been. We know what the hell you did. Where the hell you going from here?
North.
Perfect. That's just like what was that movie? Castaway. When he's at the crossroads at the end of it. You don't watch TV though. Did you see Castaway?
No. I've heard of it though.
Tom Hanks is standing there at the end of it after he was on a deserted island, comes back to the world and finds out he's just been lost his whole life. So at the end of it, after being a castaway on this deserted island, he's standing at a crossroads and he just goes, all right, I'm going north. And reminded me of that when you said it. So Tammy, this has been an awesome podcast. I'm so glad that you stopped by. I really appreciate it. And for everybody else, please subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you next week. So, Tammy, thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
The How in the Hell Did We Get Here podcast is brought to you by IT Avalon. For more information and links to other episodes, please visit johnzinkpodcast.com. We'll see you next time on How in the Hell Did We Get Here?
The future's right now.